As we're running out there, we feel the machine gun rounds skipping through, like the side of our legs, like over our heads, like it's nuts.
Ernie Jimenez joined the military because he saw it as the career opportunity of a lifetime. He joined the Marines because he wanted to fight. As an infantry assaultman, he got plenty of opportunities to test his mettle, and right from the first, he got a good hard look at what it is like to have no choice but to face down your fears.
I was super scared, and I was like, my 19th birthday is literally 4 days away from now, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it.
What is true bravery? What makes a hero a hero? Tested by the worries of what's happening at home, thousands of miles away, and the reality of what you're facing here and now. When your life is in danger every second, and it's either kill or be killed. An original podcast from Incongruity Media. This is Anthony Russo, and this is War. Although his father, Luis, wasn't thrilled about the prospect of his son joining the Marines just as a war was getting underway, Jimenez convinced him of the benefits: service, discipline, money for college, all the things the U.S. military is known for. But as a 17-year-old, Jimenez's only impression of military service came from Call of Duty. Even with the discipline and education of boot camp, he really just wanted to blow things up in as loud a way as he could.
I really wanted to play with machine guns and explosives and stuff like that. So I joined the infantry. If you're going to join the Marines, you might as well join for what Marines are like known for, and that's going and fighting. But I chose to be an infantry assaultman because I wanted to handle C4 and stuff like that. And then we got to train in the SMAL, which is a shoulder-fired multi-purpose assault weapon, explosives, and the Javelin missile, the anti-helicopter, anti-tank missile.
As he trained in the weaponry, Jimenez developed a steady hand and an accuracy with both blowing open doors for breaching and shooting rockets that would serve him well in Iraq, although he still had no sense that that really was in his future. In 2003, training wasn't as pointed as it would become, so although he knew how to use the weapons in urban combat, technically he wouldn't have a deep understanding of the ins and outs until he hit the ground, which was something that still was an abstraction. Jimenez's company was cruising around the Pacific waiting for something to happen as much as they were doing anything else, but the time between when they got the call and when they rolled into Fallujah was amazingly fast.
We deployed to Japan, Okinawa, Japan. We were supposed to go on like a Westpac. We were in the middle of a field exercise, and then we got called back early. And then they put us in an auditorium, and they told us, hey guys, we're gonna go into Iraq. So then we sailed there. It took forever, and when we got there, that's when they told us, like, hey, we're gonna be part of this huge attack on the city of Fallujah, and we're gonna go against a force of 3,000 to 5,000 terrorists. And that's when we all got briefed. In the Marine Corps, we call it like the Lance Corporal Underground, where you hear like all these rumors, kind of like through the grapevine. And that's how we would get things and be like, oh, okay, it's gonna be this day, it's gonna be this day. But finally they came and they told us, they said, all right, like we're gonna go in and we're gonna stage November 7th. We're just sitting out there until we got the call to push in. We didn't know the impact that we were about to like throw on this city yet until nighttime hit, and they said, we're going in. We got into the tracks and we started going to the city, but first they had to blow, it's a bunch of charges like stuck together, and they blow up berms. So they launched one of those and blew up the berm. And that's when we started going into the city, and that's when we heard our first casualties over the radio.
The first Battle of Fallujah, Operation Vigilant Resolve, was mostly a show of force, launched in response to the killing and desecration of Blackwater contractors. The second battle was to be more than that. It was to be a complete routing of insurgents with the plan to literally go house by house, capturing weapons and fighters. But in the 6 or so months since the first battle had ended, the insurgency had been digging in and waiting.
As we were advancing, they started shooting mortars and rockets at us. The whole sky looked like a Star Wars movie, just tracers and stuff. And they came and they shot a rocket and it hit one of our tracks. The driver died and 2 of our guys got hit. I think only the driver and the gunner died, and our guys, they were just really wounded, like they couldn't fight anymore. So then they got medevaced out. We heard all that in the radio and all of us were like dead silent. We were like, wow, we're stuck in this sardine can and we can't do anything. We're just bullshitting at first, but then once we heard the casualties, we were trying to figure out who it was. Before we went in, they gave us a number. So we wrote on all our camis, like C for our company, Charlie Company. And that's how they were going to identify us if we got hit or we died or anything. They wouldn't say our name. They would identify us by that number. So over the radio, we heard the number and we're like, whoa, who is it? Like, do you know whose number that is? And all of us were like, let's go. We need to go in. If we're just sitting ducks here. Mind you, we have a full combat load and they jammed us all into this little armored vehicle. And we're all sitting on top of each other and stuff. Like, we're sitting there for a couple hours until like all the smoke cleared. And then finally we pushed in. And when we pushed in through that berm, as soon as we walked out, we're in like knee-high mud. As soon as we got there, we just met resistance. Boom, 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 boom. They're shooting down at us, shooting everywhere. It was very chaotic.
The Marines' objective was a nearby mosque filled with fighters and a weapons cache, but the resistance was such that there was no way they could make it through all that mud without taking an unacceptable number of casualties. Instead, they cleared a nearby house to hole up in for the rest of the evening. Jimenez blew off the door and cleared the front room, and then he cooled his heels while the rest of the guys finished clearing the rest of the house. No one was home, so they bunked down for the night as best they could.
I guess there was a break in fighting. And as soon as the sun came up, boom, it was crazy. They're shooting at us from everywhere. They're running out from everywhere, like freaking trying to take down the house. And we were just up there holding our position, just boom, 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 boom. I got to shoot my first rocket in combat there. And I just shot a bunch of buildings full of insurgents. Just machine guns down on us, everything. And the tanks rolled into the middle of the city and just started wreaking havoc on all these houses shooting at us. There was javelin rounds being shot at positions and houses. There's just rockets flying everywhere, machine guns blazing everywhere. It was nuts. Then finally we go downstairs and advance to that mosque.
After the onslaught from the tanks and the rockets, the mosque fell without incident, and the Marines collected up a massive cache of weapons and continued clearing houses into the early evening. This is how the Battle of Fallujah would go for the next week or so, with Marines clearing as many houses as they could before choosing one to rest in for the night.
We set up in a house, and we kept getting like pop shots from somewhere, but we couldn't nail down where it was. Nighttime hits, and we see a bunch of people running on the street. Me and my friend Ragamuff, we're on post. He's on the machine gun. I'm on the saw. And we radio in, and we're like, is there Marines patrolling? Because it looked like it was Marines patrolling. They're like, yeah, we sent out a patrol, so don't shoot, right? And then we see them, and they have kind of like robes, because we're seeing them through our night vision goggles. We call again, we're like, I don't think these are Marines. And then they're like, all right, shoot. We didn't get a chance to shoot them at all because they disappeared somewhere. After that, in the morning, we started getting more pop shots, like boom, 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 like whizzing by our heads.
Command decided the best tactic was to have some Marines jump into the house next door where they could get a better bead on the building that was firing down on their position. Jimenez's friend Aaron Pickering was among the guys on that team. He leapt across the adjacent balcony to take up a position in the building next door.
When they jumped over the balcony, I heard shots fired, and I heard corpsmen up. I was like awestruck, like, what's going on? What can I do to help? I can't do anything. And that's when we just heard more shots, and then everybody inside got stuck in a room except Pickering. He was already shot up. I didn't get to see any of it because I was on the outside. Then we called our 3rd platoon to come and aid us. And when they came, the terrorist leaned over the window and shot one of our Navy corpsmen, Doc Woods. I was right on the ledge watching the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure he died as soon as he got shot. And then they advanced into the house, and they were still trapped. They're still trapped in there, and they're all trapped. One of our senior Marines, Hernan, went up the stairs and he got shot in the chest, but his plate saved his life, and he had like no scratch on him. As they're pushing through, they call for a D9 bulldozer. It's like this heavy-duty, craziest bulldozer I've ever seen. They come over and hit the side of the house. Maybe the wall would fall down and we could see the insurgents. When that D9 bulldozer came and hit the wall came down on one of the Marines that was inside the house, on 2 of them actually, and broke one of their femurs, I believe. And we just hear a bunch of screaming because the wall's coming down, and the wall fell on him and broke his femur, and he's screaming. And those screams, I heard those screams in my dreams forever. Like, they were like the craziest screams I've ever heard. When the wall came down, me and Ragamuff and my friend Raridan unloaded on these guys. Made them Swiss cheese. A team was sent up there to grab Pickering, and Pickering wasn't with us anymore. That was on the Marine Corps birthday.
Training will get you used to combat a lot faster than you think. It adjusts your fight or flight mechanism so that you're prepared to respond to an attack with the kind of precision you never would have believed you had. There's no way to train for dealing with loss, though, or with the quiet times between when you're fighting.
Our battalion commander came and heard about all that. He always wanted to be in the action, and he came in with a big old cigar in his mouth, and he was saying, like, "It's a fine day, gents, it's a fine day." And everybody's looking at him, wanting to kill him, because we just lost 2 of our friends, and he's sitting here saying it's a fine day because it's the Marine Corps birthday. But I guess he felt that it was his job to cheer us up for some reason. But when something like that happens, you cannot cheer anyone up. You know you have to push through, but you're still mourning, and you're not going to want to talk about it at all. That's when you realize that you're not fighting for any country. You're not fighting for the Marine Corps. You're fighting for your friends. The guy next to you is who you're fighting for, because you love him and he loves you, and we all want to survive and go back to our families. And that hit us really hard. That was our first, like, boom, back to reality. Like, you have to survive this. That's what I kept telling myself. You have to survive this, Ernie. You have to survive this.
With the Marines at the beginning of a battle that would stretch into almost legend, Jimenez had no idea how hard that would be, or how often he would have to shove aside loss or apprehension just so he could get the job done. But within hours of catching their breaths, the Marines would be at it again, and Jimenez would have his chance to test that mantra. Hiring is challenging, but there's one place where you can go where hiring is simple, fast, and smart. A place where growing businesses connect to qualified candidates. That place is ZipRecruiter.com/thisiswar. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invites them to apply for your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the very first day. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/thisiswar. That's ZipRecruiter.com/THISISWAR. ZipRecruiter.com/thisiswar. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Insurgents had taken up almost all of the available high ground in Fallujah, and the only way for the Marines to deal with that fact was to take the buildings back or to take them down. As an infantry assaultman, Jimenez was responsible for breaching in the first case and rockets in the second.
Right after that happened, they said, "Hey, Ernie, there's a bunch of guys shooting at us like across the way," which was like 3 blocks away. And they said, "You have to go destroy the house." I was super scared, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if this is my last stand. The biggest thing that was going through my head was, my birthday's in 4 days and I'm going to spend it in this shithole. I was just like, please let me make it to 19 at least. They put 2 bulldozers in this empty field and they told me to go behind the 2 bulldozers. And I was like, so you want me to run into a middle of an open field under machine gun fire to shoot this rocket? This is all that I'm thinking, like, okay. So I run out there and I feel like it's slow motion, like boom, boom, boom. And I told myself before I ran out there, as soon as my knee hits the ground, I'm shooting the rocket. I didn't go out there alone. I went out there with my senior Marine, Recknagel. And we both ran out there and we shot the rocket. We destroyed the top of the house. Well, then we ran back and they're like, oh, you got to do it again. And we're like, what? And mind you, as we're running out there, we feel the machine gun rounds skipping through like the side of our legs, like over our heads, like it's nuts. So then we run out there again and the same thing, machine gun fire from somewhere else and skipping through the sand, going above me. And I feel like everything is in slow motion. And those 2 rockets destroyed the house full of like, it had to be like at least 10 to 20 people that were shooting down at us.
During the days of intense fighting, everyone gets their chance to overcome their fear and do what the mission requires. Whether and how well they take advantage of that opportunity is something that not only earns the respect of the other Marines, but also gives others courage. That's what Jimenez is getting at when he talks about fighting for the guys he was serving with, behaving in a way that shows everyone you are ready to do what's needed.
It was just like one huge firefight after another. We would send out patrols to go clear houses, and on one of those patrols, we got hit like really hard. They were shooting at us from a house maybe 2 blocks away from us. We cleared the house, and the house was wild. It was wild. Me and my senior Marine Johnson were sent to clear a house next door to it so we could set up a rocket position. So we go up and we went all the way to the roof and we're setting up a rocket position. So if something went crazy in that house, we were going to just destroy it. I saw the whole thing like I was watching a movie. They go up the stairs and all of them are in a balcony. They just met heavy fire. And one of our senior Marines, he's a huge guy from Illinois, Kurtz, and he wrecked a guy, like sawed him in half. When he went up to go clear and the guy popped out with a grenade and he was gonna blow everyone up and he like kicked him off and sprayed him and then the grenade went off and stuff and like they all got shrapnel and me and Johnson couldn't do anything because we fire, we're gonna hit one of them. If we shoot a rocket, everyone's dead, you know? That's when you see like what heroism really is. When you see a man do that and you see him fight for his life up there, it was actually like magical. You never really see true heroism, and seeing it like with your eyes, like every day everyone's doing something crazy heroic. It's inspiring.
After nearly 2 weeks of constant battle, the Marines established a firm base they named after Pickering. Jimenez spent the remaining months on loan to different units since his skill sets were in such high demand. Although he likes to joke that assaultmen are the smartest because if they survive the first room, they don't have to clear anymore, during those last 2 months in Fallujah, he would come to learn that being an assaultman definitely had its downsides.
It was mostly missions out to clear certain sectors. A lot of patrols, if we had to go like support someone for clearing and stuff. But I guess I was like a favorite assaultman because I was sent to the other platoons to help them. And I never got to go back and take a bath or anything. So I think I went like 40 to 60 days without a bath. And the same clothes too, because they kept saying like, oh, okay, you're going to go with with third platoon. Oh, okay, you'll go with first platoon and help them. Until I finally said something. I said, hey, like, everybody's gone back and I'm still wearing the same clothes as when we started. And then finally I got sent back by myself.
Finally, they got word that the tour was getting ready to close out, and there was a kind of collective sigh of relief. Jimenez had another 2 years left, so he knew he probably wasn't done with combat, but at least he would be able to put Fallujah behind him and go back to a world with hot meals and showers.
We got sent back to Al-Assad. We thought we were going to go back on ship. They were, oh, we're done. Like, we had a unit take over for us. We're done, you know? They said, hey, the Iraqi elections are coming up. We need to go support all these little towns so they could go vote. We got sent to this weird, like, town by the Syrian border. The Marine base out there, or like firm base, was called Camp Korean Village.
Jimenez couldn't have been less thrilled with the assignment. Not only would he be stuck on this detail supporting the Iraq election, but he was sent out ahead of the rest of the platoon. He'd been attached with these same guys for nearly the entire time, and having to do the menial work while the rest of them flew out on helicopters really dragged him down.
I flew in the morning because I was tasked to do a working party, and they told me, like, hey, you're going to go set up tents and stuff. I was super bummed out. Like, man, you're going to make me work like that, you know? And we landed and I set up tents and stuff and we went to sleep. I had one of my best friends, Efren Moreno, came and told me, hey, have you seen my pack? And I was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I'm pretty sure that the other helicopter blew up.
Moreno had been asleep on the second chopper, but some of his gear was on the first. He probably had held up hope that maybe it was just a dream, and the easiest way to confirm that was if he found out that his gear made it. But it was a half-hearted wish at best. And before too long, they got the news.
The CO comes in and tells us, like, hey guys, we need to talk. And we all go out and we all huddle around and told us that the other helo went down and there was no survivors. All of us were like crying and hugging each other because we just went through this crazy battle and then all our friends die on a helicopter.
Corporal Stephen Johnson, with whom Jimenez had cleared that house in Fallujah to provide rocket support. Lance Corporals Murad Ragimov and Ronald Raridan, who had helped him turn the insurgents into Swiss cheese when the bulldozer knocked down the walls. In all, 30 Marines and 1 sailor died in that crash. Men he had fought with house to house, with whom he'd spent the few good times that made the tough times a little easier. Like we said, you can't train to deal with loss. But after 2 months and change fighting in Fallujah, the best you can do is endure and hope to complete the mission.
The next day, they make us sift through all their gear. And their gear is full of melted skin and stuff like that. And that's like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. One of my close friends, Raridan, had a special helmet that he bought. It was like a special forces helmet. And when I saw that, I couldn't control myself because it was part of his like scalp was still there. And I just wanted to throw up everywhere and cry and everything because how are you going to get the people that were attached to their friends to sift through their gear to see what was usable? That's how dark the Marine Corps is. We were sent to still do the mission, and we went and we did the mission with the very few people that we had, and the mission was a bust. There was no one that voted. We went out there and we guarded stuff for no reason. After that, we just flew back, and we're all thinking still, well, we're still haven't really grasped that all our friends just died because we were sent out so quick to this mission.
It wasn't just a lack of time to process the tragedy that stuck with Jimenez. It was also the injustice of it. These were some of the toughest guys he knew, guys who had fought fearlessly house to house in Fallujah. They had earned the right to go home if anyone had. But that's the thing about combat. It isn't fair. It's fickle. Sure, training and commitment can help you stack the deck. They can make you able to protect yourself and your buddies from anything and everything, except chance. As Jimenez prepared to head back home, this deep injustice kept him completely off balance.
When I got back to the airbase, I went to my friend's tent. He's in Bravo Company. And I asked for our friend that died when we first got to Fallujah. I knew that he was dead. And I went and I asked him, hey, where is Bo at? And my friend Dingman, he kind of hugged me and said, we all thought you were dead because they said that most of the Charlie Company died. And then he told me, Bo died in October. And it just hit me there. I was like, wow, I'm not even here right now. It was very crazy because then you start talking to your other friends that were in too, and they all got saved by little weird things. So one of my friends, the one that asked me for the pack, he put his pack in there and was going to sit in there. And then they told him it's too full here. So then he went on to the other helicopter. One of my friends was in there and he had to go pee. So he got out of his seat, went and peed on the side of the helicopter. And then they told him hey, go on the other helicopter. So that piss saved his life. And then you start thinking man, this is so crazy. We all got saved by little things, little coincidences, things that you can't control. Everyone that I loved out there died. And I felt like they all died for no reason, for an Iraqi election that had no merit, no nothing.
Chance cuts both ways, but in this case there was little satisfaction in that. When Jimenez was assigned rear party duty, he didn't even have the energy to complain. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. He started partying when he finally got to Okinawa and kept it up all the way back to the States. Once, when he was home, drinking like a Marine, he said, he picked a fight with 3 guys. He didn't remember why. In retrospect, he realizes that he was pretty much just a walking ball of anger and aggression at the time. Jimenez did end up doing some mandatory counseling before getting sent to Afghanistan, but all that was left for him now was to finish out his service and call it quits.
I was pretty numb, to be honest. All right, let's get this deployment done so I could get out of the Marine Corps already. Let me just power through everything and get out. And when I get out, everything's going to be better. Everything's going to be better. We went to Asadabad, Afghanistan. To be honest, that deployment was nothing to me compared to what we just went through. Because everyone's shooting each other from far distances. They're not almost face to face with you. They were pop-shotting us from mountains and shooting rockets at us, but mountain warfare is way different. The only bad part about it was physically demanding. All our command, they were pogues. They weren't infantry. So they wanted us to get haircuts in the middle of Afghanistan and to shave and stuff. I'm this is combat. Who cares about that stuff? That's why I would get in trouble. And I got banished up there for those 2 months. And I lived on an outpost with 2 other Marines for 2 months in the Afghani Special Forces. They were the coolest months ever because I would give money to the local kids to go get me food and cokes and stuff.
Jimenez's last 2 months of combat deployment were like a loud, violent camping trip. Asadabad was not the Korangal Valley, and being banished to the small outpost just meant he had to endure the occasional long-distance attack and engage likewise. But when he wasn't fighting, he joked with the local kids and learned how to kill and clean chickens and just waited to be cycled out. But coming home wasn't what he thought it would be.
I was living with my dad. I was still trying to come in grips with my friends dying, having a culture shock, getting out of the Marine Corps. When you are in, you fantasize getting out, right? When I leave, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then when you actually leave, life hits you right in the face. And you're like, whoa, I have to get a job, I have to go to school, I have to do this, I have to do that, and I have to do it. Someone's not telling me I have to do it. That's when you start getting a little lazy. I tried holding down a couple jobs and I would just quit. That's when I started having trouble sleeping. And I would sleep 1 to 2 hours a night and I wouldn't be able to function during the day and I wouldn't be able to fall back asleep. I was having crazy nightmares about everything, and then I started getting survivor's guilt and just saying, why did I survive? Why am I here? Why did they have to die and not me? Since I got out, we've had at least 1 or 2 suicides a year. with like friends or acquaintances of ours. I always am awestruck when something like that happens because they all look happy and stuff, and I've talked to some of them and then they go and they do it. And that's one thing that I think we need to fix. These people are coming back from war and feeling like lonely, feeling like they don't belong.
Jimenez tried his hand at college, but he wasn't sleeping at all and ended up withdrawing from more classes than he completed. He was having trouble staying employed as well. Mostly, though, he felt bad about just hanging around his father's house waiting to feel like doing something, so he got help.
The VA helped me out a lot. My former doctor was one of like the leading experts in PTSD. She did a great job with my meds and stuff like that, and that's how I got back into school. And then the real person that saved me was my wife. She was like my missing link where like she made me feel like I was a person again instead of like this walking mess. Having a support system with like my family and my wife and my kids like really helps. And I know a lot of people don't have that. I have a happy ending that most guys didn't get, and I can't complain.
In the real world, where people go to work and chit-chat, Jimenez has found a sweet spot. He works at a company that's veteran-heavy, which is only a plus. Most important, though, Ernie Jimenez got the support he needed from his family and friends, even through the early, dark times after he got home. Eventually, he pushed through to the light, but it isn't something that he takes for granted. He knows he's alive and other guys aren't. And that's a responsibility he takes very seriously. Next time on This Is War.
At that point, I just picked up Mark 19 and I shot it until we didn't have any ammo left of that. And then I picked up my saw and I shot that until I didn't have any ammo. The medevac helicopter came in and it was really bad.
Are you a combat veteran, or do you know one with a story to tell? Reach out to us at stories@thisiswar.com with your dates and branch of service and a brief description of the experience that you'd like to share. This Is War was written by me, Anthony Russo, and produced by Incongruity Media. If you like the show, you can help support us by visiting our sponsors or by leaving a 5-star review wherever you're listening right now. You can also follow us on social media at This Is War. You also can find show notes, photos, and more background on each episode at thisiswar.com.